All right, guys, welcome to another edition of Texans Unfiltered. This one's a really special one for me. What Honcho was about a year ago when I was on with you, maybe a little sooner than that, but it was about a year, right?
Yeah, close to that, close about a year, yes, sir.
So I'm excited to talk to Honcho from Soft Sports. I have been a fan of Honcho for a long time. I love what he brings. I think he's definitely one of the better platforms out there as far as regarding the Texans and getting content. And I wanted to bring you on and talk to you. I wanted to just kind of give listeners the ability to understand what Soft Sports is and who you guys are and what you do, and then have a conversation about Bill O'Brien, a real honest conversation. So Honcho, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell them where they can find you on Twitter. Tell them where they can find Soft Sports and all that good stuff.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm Ed Honcho, Soft Sports. Soft Sports HTX on Twitter and Instagram. And I think on Facebook, it's just Soft Sports. It definitely could be a bit more active. YouTube, if you go to softsports.com, it takes you straight to the YouTube page to kind of make it much more convenient instead of having, search on YouTube for it. And
then I think one of the things that I want to talk about is the Den. Can we talk about that?
Absolutely.
I know you don't push it as much as Soft Sports, but I think you have some real interesting conversations on there. And I don't think enough people realize that's like you're having real life conversations, and there's some interesting topics there. Like, where'd that come from?
Oh man, the Den. If we get back to the origins of the Den, it happened. I think the sauce had already kind of started, and it was some interesting people that I was having some conversations with in Soft Sports, and I was like, hey, let's talk about some other things. Now, I used to be a connoisseur of the cannabis, if you will. So it started out as the Kush Den. So it was actually me getting blitzed off my ass and just, talking with people about random different crazy shit. And then as it kind of grew and it kind of progressed and you talk about different stories, I started to notice how the conversation was changing. So kind of got rid of the reefer, got rid of the weed aspect to it, and just really started having those real conversations. And I started seeing people from, different walks of life, different ages, and that we could all kind of come together, and people wanted to be able to speak freely without feeling like they're being judged for having, whatever feelings or thoughts that they have. And that's kind of the premise of the Den. I try my best to stay neutral. Some things, you can't always, but to just give people a welcome space, whether you agree with, the majority of people, whether you disagree, whatever it is. I think that we're losing that ability to really speak our minds without necessarily insulting somebody else.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's one of the biggest parts of the platform that I like the most is it's not, I guess, you could describe it as like a safe space to come and really just have honest conversations. And they're always it's like the timing of the conversations are always perfect, with whether it's things going on in the world and stuff like that. And I find it really interesting. I would like to eventually come on to the Den and have a real conversation.
Anytime, you're absolutely welcome. You just let me know, we can make it happen.
Yeah, I would love to do that. I would love to talk about why white people are so scared to back other races and what they go through and how embarrassing it can be for people like me who want to be a part of that and be a part of the change. That's a conversation we can have off air too, but it's just extremely bothersome. But I don't want to get into those because that could be something we talk about for 4 hours probably. All right, so let's talk about Soft Sports. Tell me how that started. Tell me kind of where you guys, how you guys got to where you're at, and then let's talk about where you're wanting to take it. Because we had some conversations earlier before we recorded, and I think everybody would like to hear kind of where you were wanting to take it. So if you could just take me through the history.
Okay. Soft Sports also started off kind of crazy. It was me and a friend of mine, Shaq Kush is the name he goes by. And we were arguing. We were having a video chat. I don't know if we were on Google Hangouts, but we were arguing about, I want to say it was the Osweiler situation. And he was saying something. It was just some of the craziest stuff. And I'm like, I can't believe you're saying what you're saying right now. People need to hear this. And ended up recording some of the conversation and ended up uploading it. And then it kind of got some response. And then, Deshaun gets drafted and it just kind of goes from there. And it wasn't ever really intentional. Like, hey, I want to be a YouTuber. I want to start a YouTube channel. It just kind of started as a thing. And then again, it kind of molded itself into its own kind of community. And I think, where we're at right now, I think, like I said, we're in a good spot. I think we kind of have this stigma about us right now that I won't say it's necessarily untrue, but I don't think it's as bad as people make it. You know, everybody say, well, those are the negative guys. Well, I feel more like, I won't say emotional, but I feel like, you know, because we come more from the fan perspective. And when certain things happen, I think it lasts longer in certain fans. So maybe we reiterate certain things a little bit more than, say, somebody with a more corporate situation. But I mean, you know, it just is what it is. Like I say, we come from the fans, talking to the fans. That's kind of the angle that we want to bring, you know, to be a fan, not to necessarily be an analyst or, you know, not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just to have that fan emotion. And so to have a natural feel to it. That's kind of the goal of Soft Sports. And then, like I said, another platform where people can kind of call in and express themselves genuinely. You know, on the radio, you definitely can call in, but you can't say certain things. I think when it comes to sports, when certain things happen, we have a lot of pent up rage, emotion, or maybe a lot of happiness, whatever. And you want to say a lot of stuff. So just kind of a place where, again, people can kind of have that uncensored fandom.
Yeah, I love the platform. It's just like, basically, come on, say whatever you want, and like, no matter how you feel, whether other people would disagree or not, it's a place to have those conversations about the Texans. And like you said, it's different from, you know, Sports Illustrated or any of those networks, because it's uncensored, kind of like us in a sense, where it's, you know, we're unfiltered for a reason, because we want to have the real conversations. We're a little different than what you guys have done, but I think you guys also point out the things that a lot of people won't want to talk about. And more specifically, the Bill O'Brien situation and him with this team. And I wanted to have you on specifically to have that conversation, because I can't think of anybody else that's probably more prepared to have a conversation about Bill O'Brien, you know, being gone, you know, your thoughts on it. And then I wanted to have a conversation about my thoughts on it. So my thing with Bill O'Brien, and this is just, you know, this is how I felt for a while. I think he's let a lot of people down. I think he's made a lot of questionable moves where people just can't seem to understand where the team is going. I think it's a lack of a vision, a lack of a plan that, you know, for instance, DeAndre Hopkins, when he was traded, it was almost as if Houston literally melted down. I've never seen anything like it in sports. I don't think. I can't remember a time where a trade like that happened and everybody just died. So I want to talk to you about that and kind of your thoughts on the trade itself and kind of what you thought about it.
Man, I kind of remember, well, it wasn't that long ago. I remember, though, because I'm on and off the Twitter a little bit, but, you know, that's usually where information kind of comes in the fastest. And I logged on for a second, and you saw the kind of the rumors, you know, DeAndre Hopkins is being shot, but you could hear that every year. You're like, oh, you know, that's the national media again, you know, hating on the Texans, you know, not want to give us any love. And then I forgot who I saw said it first. It might have been in a little the private chat that we have at the round table, and they said that the trade happened. I was like, you know, this can't be a real thing. Like, I know we say what we say about Bill O'Brien, and, like, yeah, we say, you know, he's a bad coach or whatever, you know, however you want to look at it. But there's no way nobody would make this move. Like, this is a prank. This is a joke. This can't be real. And then to find out that happened. And again, I know a lot of people, you know, get over it and all these things. I think we as fans have been spoiled, you know, especially when you go from Andre to D-Hop, at how good the receivers have been for this franchise, or at least our number one receivers have been. And, you know, people saying, oh, you can just get it. Like, I don't see that. And I can't comprehend the logic that Bill O'Brien had. And I know there's various rumors, oh, it was the money or it was baby mamas or whatever it is. This guy is one of the best in the game right now. And you have him under contract. There's really no real issue. I just couldn't comprehend what's going through his mind. And I have this thing that Bill O'Brien thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. And sometimes they say, you know, hey, when you're the smartest guy in the room, you should be in another room. I don't think Bill O'Brien wants to go to a different one. I think he likes it. I think that he figures that he can do something that other people can't create. So Pop isn't necessary to the equation. But I think that was really detrimental not only to the team, but to Watson's growth. And so I'm like wondering, is the coach really, you know, he says it's whatever in the best interest of the capital TEAM, but is that really true? Is it more a personal thing? And I think when you start putting personal issues over the team, you're really going to have a big problem.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the initial shock of it for me specifically, it was hard to understand the football perspective and how it made the team better. I think that for me was the hardest part to understand. I am a little different than most people in the sense that I actually don't, there's one player on this team that is untouchable. That's the way I look at it. And that's the quarterback. That's Deshaun Watson. I don't get emotionally tied to players, as I've seen just in all sports that things like this can happen at all times. And I'm fine with moving on from players if there's a plan in place for the team to be better. Like if the team gets better through the trade, I really can't complain, because that's at the end of the day that you're wanting to make the best football team possible. The day of the trade, I saw no way. I tried to look at it as like every way possible. There was no way that the team was better the day of the trade. And that was my biggest issue with the entire thing. I didn't understand how anybody could have thought that this team was better. They weren't. I love David Johnson. I understand everything. That I just talked to him 4 days ago. I had him on the channel. Like, great dude. But at the same time, I didn't think David Johnson was enough for us to feel better about where the team was. So I agree with you. That part was my biggest issue. Once Brandon Cooks was added, did that start to not necessarily make you feel better, but start to understand that maybe there is potentially a plan? And whether we agree with the plan or not, did it at least make you think there's a chance that something can happen? Or is the book closed on Bill O'Brien in your mind, that this guy's just never going to succeed and there's no way that this team's going to be successful?
Okay, now when Brandon Cooks was acquired, and again, like I said, I could see the vision. I don't believe Bill O'Brien is the guy to execute. And I'm gonna tell you, the book closed for me on O'Brien, the playoff loss to the Colts a couple of years back. And my thing with Bill was always that I've always felt like he was a good coach. So this is why I feel like we get a negative stigma too. Because you're hating, you're always shitting on Bill. I've always said I felt like Bill is a average to good coach. I feel like certain coaches, especially when it's their first-time head coach, they kind of have to be knocked off that high horse, kind of recalibrate, and then if they get another opportunity at coaching, generally I think they do better, kind of a la Kubiak. And I think that's what Bill needs. Like, I don't think sometimes when you're in the middle of something, it's hard to see what's really going on around you. And I think that's kind of where he's at. He's in the middle of the storm, so he doesn't really realize what's happening. And I don't think he'll ever reach that next plateau until he has a chance to really, step back. Again, reanalyze everything. And I think that he could become better. I think he could become really good. I just don't think here with the Texans organization that he's going to accomplish that. And so that's kind of my thing with him. And the Colts lost, again, after you played them twice in the regular season and then to get embarrassed like that. I know there were injuries and other things going on. I just felt like, he's had enough opportunity. The turmoil that's reportedly happening within the organization and all of the stuff that was going on. I would just like to see the Texans have a fresh start while they had a couple extra years on Deshaun's contract. But it looks like they're all in. And we have to accept it. But at the same time, I don't think we have to accept it quietly. And I think there's just frustration. And again, I don't think anything's going to change the way this Texan organization is ran. I think Bill has a stronghold on the entire organization. So nothing's going to happen with that. But definitely, like I said, I'm out on the guy. My deal has to be, he has to, in my opinion, he has to take you to a Super Bowl. Until then, there's nothing. Like last year, I was like, hey, take us to the AFC Championship. And I can say, hey, you know what, I'm back on the Bill O'Brien bandwagon. Maybe, he's shown that he's made progress, that he's gotten better. But then when you let, the third team out of your division go to an AFC Championship under your tenure, and you still haven't reached that, even though you've won the division, 4 out of the last 5 times or something like that. Yeah, it just tells me, man, I think that he's kind of reached a plateau. I don't ever see him getting over it as long as he's the Texans head coach.
Yeah, I've always said regarding Bill O'Brien, at least the last 2 years, that I think Bill O'Brien is I think he's a good coach. I don't know if he's a great coach. Obviously, we've seen that he's not a great coach so far. I've always thought that Bill O'Brien is going to be one of those coaches that when he's fired and he looks in the mirror and realizes the mistakes he made, that if he would have an opportunity to correct those mistakes and land another job, we might see a different head coach. sometimes it takes, falling on your face for you to realize what it is that you need to do. But like from an X's and O's standpoint, he understands the game. Players seem to want to play for him. I know we have like the Jalen Strongs and the Braxton Millers, Brandon Brooks, but like there seems to be more of players that want to play for Bill O'Brien than what we want to talk about. Last season, at least this is what I saw. You tell me, but when we made the trade for Tunsil and Stills, and we made the trade for Gary and Conley, and we made the trade for Duke Johnson, it seemed as if Texans fans were actually pleased with Bill O'Brien as a general manager. Everybody was talking about how they wanted him to be aggressive. They were excited to see this aspect of the team. We've never seen this before. He's going out and adding players in midseason. We extended Witt. You can talk about the contract and that being an issue. We can have that conversation because I would agree with you. But, we saw an aggressive side of Bill O'Brien, and the team looked better, like with those additions. If you take away the DeAndre Hopkins trade, do you think that Bill has put together a good team based on some of the moves he's made since he actually has had full control?
And it's tough to remove the Hopkins. But I mean, everything else, again, like you said, being more aggressive, that's something I've been saying for a long time. I'd love to see this team do, so I do have to commend him on that. Going out and getting pieces to try to fill needs actively within the season, definitely commend on that. And I want to say Nick Martin might have been early.
Just right before the Saints game.
And so, like I say, and kind of making moves so that you did see a little bit different approach to how they dealt with players. My thing, again, like I said, with Bill is just I just want to see the vision come to life. And that's kind of where it is with me. Until I really see it executed, I feel like he has this unprecedented level of power. I feel like he needs like an ego check. And so for him to feel the way that he does, I don't see it on the field. I believe in having confidence in yourself and then believing in your own, program. But as a fan, okay, Bill, this is going on year 7, getting into the playoffs is cool. Divisional wins are cool. Like all these moves need to accumulate into something. And again, like I said, preferably a Super Bowl, at least so that you can get with the big dogs of the AFC and get to the AFC Championship, something, or be competitive, or not just don't get blown out on a playoff exit. But as far as I do feel like he has been more aggressive, I will say that I can commend him on that. And I do like GM Bill more than I like Coach Bill. So, right.
Yeah, no, see, for me, that's the biggest thing that I see. I do. It's hard because Hopkins was such an impactful player for this team that when he was gone, it's like a gut punch. You're losing something that you're never you won't replace. And you're right, like the fan base has been spoiled. Like to me, Andre Johnson, even with DeAndre Hopkins, is the best wide receiver that this team has ever had. And I think recency bias tends to make people think that DeAndre was a better wide receiver overall than Andre Johnson. I think Andre Johnson was. I think he's one of the best wide receivers I've ever seen play. But so when I look at that, and then when I look at the aggressiveness on the field, like last year or years prior, we never saw him go for it on 4th and 1, 4th and 2. Last year, there was a change in all of that. We saw it. There was a game where we closed it out going for it on 4th and 1. Oh, it was the Kansas City game in the regular season. And we went for it and won. What do you want to see from his coaching? Like, he's here. We know he's here, so there's nothing we can do. He's going to be here at least for another year. What areas can you see him improve on that would be able to maybe let this team take the next step? Like, obviously, Super Bowl, AFC Championship is the realm where he needs to go. Do you think he has the team, player-wise, to be able to do that? And then what does he need to do as a coach to be able to do it?
Offensively, I think that he has a team to compete with anybody. I mean, there's a lot of speed on the field. If everybody is staying healthy, then I think that we should be able to compete with anyone. My issue with Bill is, again, he wins the games he's supposed to win. It's those games like Denver last year. It's the games like, the Ravens, like Kansas. It's those embarrassing losses. You had one of the most talented teams. I think they're still very talented in the league. But when it comes to competing with what you would say with the big dogs, it's like there's a clear discrepancy. I mean, that to me, that's coaching. I'd like to see him I mean, I'd like to see him put more points on the board. Again, that could be, you can talk about players, you can talk about execution, and a lot of those things. But to me, it's still, it's still Bill, first down, run up the middle. It's like you still see a lot of those old tendencies. Again, like I say, I think he has the weapons, and it looks like he's getting a bunch of guys that are fast, and maybe they can get a little quicker, be a little bit more aggressive. So I hope that's what happens. But just something with Bill, like I said, I don't know. He said, it's 8-8 league. To me, that screams mediocrity. When he talks about just some of the things that he says when he speaks, it just makes me feel like, I don't know. I don't see it. Because I study a lot of leaders for some reason. I like reading about leaders or people who've been very, and he just doesn't have the qualities that you see from most. I just don't think, you'll hear when Vrabel got picked up, they always talk about leader of men. He's leader of men, this, that. You don't get that from Bill O'Brien. Is he intelligent? Absolutely. Is he a smart guy? Absolutely. But for all the labels of offensive guru, quarterback guru, and all of these things, I don't see it for that. I'd like to see more points on the board. I mean, I'd like to see us be one of the highest scoring teams in the league instead of being, kind of a middle of the pack team.
Yeah, I think there's a lot there to unpack. So one thing for sure, when it comes to like the offensive guru, quarterback guru, those were all given to him by the media. Like, I feel like those aren't anything, like, I've never heard Bill O'Brien say anything like that. Like, everybody always throws that around, and I just wonder how people have been able to hang up on like, just think about that. Like, I don't think that he's a quarterback guru. I don't think he's an offensive guru, to be honest with it. Based on stats, you can't say that about him if you look at points per game. And then with the leader of men, I'm right there with you. I'm a big proponent. I read a lot of leadership books. Understanding what leadership looks like and things of that nature. I think that based on the perception we have of Bill O'Brien and what we see, it looks like he's an awful leader. It looks like he's not somebody that is able to lead. He gives us the same quotes, same things all the time. TEAM, versatility, all the stuff that he does. 8-8 league. I wonder, do you think that there's a difference between the Bill we see and the Bill that the players see?
And I wonder that. I really do. Maybe there is. Maybe, again, like I say, maybe that guy that was, in the tunnel yelling at the fans, maybe they were used to that, because it seemed like nobody, when you see that video, how nobody kind of batted an eye. It was just like, come on, coach. Like, they're used to it. Maybe he's much more aggressive. Maybe he's more... maybe puts on a different personality with them, and then when he deals with the media, because he seems not to enjoy dealing with the media that much. So I think that's why you hear the same quotes, just kind of going through the motion a lot. I'm wondering, because again, like you say, there are players who come out and they vouch for him. Deshaun has vouched for him, and even with a move like the the Hopkins trade, he seems to still be riding with Bill O'Brien. So maybe there's something else going on behind the scenes that we're not seeing. But again, like I say, to me, he just kind of comes off. I don't know. He's just lacking a lot of quality, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, like I said, his image, which to most people is like one of the most important things, and his image it's not a nice image outside of the building. Like, outside the building, it's there. I mean, everywhere. It's national jokes about Bill O'Brien everywhere, all the time. It never ends. Like the draft. Twitter. I mean, just this dude. It's almost like he needs somebody he needs a personal PR coach, because he has no idea what he does and how people react. And I would agree. I just wonder how different it is in the locker room, because like for Deshaun to come out constantly, even at the end of last season, I mean, he was very definitive about Bill O'Brien and who he is and what he believes in. He even told the media, you can write what you want, you can think what you want, but like, I know who this guy is and I want to play for him. I don't know. I find it crazy that it sucks, because we don't really have an understanding of who he is in the locker room. So all we have to go off of is his awful press conferences where he gives the exact same thing every time.
So there have to be some. They have to. What happened after that Patriots game, and I think it was Deshaun gave him the game ball.
Yeah.
And so there has to be some type of some kind of connection going on in the locker room, because obviously there's something going on there. I think that game maybe meant a little bit more to him than it should, because it seemed like, again, he took the week off after that. But so I guess I would have to say that I would agree that it has to be. It's maybe, again, like, some people just don't deal well with the media, but when it comes to team affairs and things like that, they're well loved in the locker room. But yeah, that would have to be the case. It has to be, maybe it's two sides to Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, I do you think he just doesn't give a shit about the media? And
Absolutely.
I really think that's exactly what it is. I think he could care less. He just knows that he's required to talk to the media, exactly. So he just goes out there and does whatever he can. I really honestly don't think he cares at all about what his image is perceived as.
I'd agree with that. Definitely agree with that.
All right, so let's talk about this team. So I really like the way the offense looks. I really do. I think the Brandon Cooks trade, the part that people don't talk about enough, that I think is the most interesting aspect of it, is the last 2 years we've seen that when Will Fuller goes down, this offense becomes stagnant and becomes 17 points per game. With the addition of Brandon Cooks, if Will Fuller goes down, this offense should be able to pick up exactly where it was. If Will Fuller can stay healthy and you have Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller on the outside, I don't think people want to acknowledge. No, like, I'm different when it comes to contracts and things. I don't really look at it too much. So when I look at the Randall Cobb contract, I understand why people are so frustrated about it. But at the end of the day, I also realize that this team has never had a reliable slot wide receiver since Bill O'Brien has been here. Ellington was always hurt. Kiki couldn't seem to, maybe he's in the doghouse. I think he has the talent to be really good, but maybe we'll never see it again as we, Braxton, Jalen. But then when you add the element of Cobb in the slot, which opens everything up, Deshaun's great in the middle. I think Jordan Akins is a star on the verge of breaking out. And then you add David and Duke in the backfield. It's almost like a pick your poison offense. You want to play cover 2, cover 3, take away the deep ball. Well, then good luck with Duke and David coming out of the backfield and Randall in the middle. How do you feel about this team? And kind of just let's talk about the offense first, because I think the defense is a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, and that's where I think we are. I think the offense is going to be relying very heavily upon the offense. And again, I think that all of the pieces are there to be a potent offense. Like you said, I think, like I say, pick your poison. You have, what's the Texans' favorite? Versatility, coming out of the backfield. Again, anything, as long as Deshaun Watson's on the field, anything is capable. So, again, when you take away the Hopkins aspect of it, yes, the moves were, if you try to look at it with an unbiased mind, that he did improve the talent on the team, aside from, you can't replace Hopkins. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, like I said, but I agree with you on the point about Will, and that's been a concern with me for a couple of years, is that I like Will. I think when Will is on the field, you do, like say, you see a much more dynamic offense. But when he stays, or he's been hurt every season, at least 2 or 3 games, it's impactful when it comes down to the playoffs. And you're kind of, we don't know if Will's able to go or not. And you're one and done in the playoffs. So if you can't rely on the guy, it's going to be a problem. My only issue with the Cooks thing, and I know I heard everybody talking about the I'm sorry, what are they? Not the migraines, the damn concussions.
Concussions, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a concerning thing. I know people say, well, they're mild concussions. To me, a concussion is a concussion, regardless of how you look at it. So, that's kind of concerning. As far as across the board, again, if he's only missed 2 games, so I won't say he's injury prone, but that's a concern. Will has an injury history. I think your most reliable guy right now might be Kenny. I think that the talent is there, but is the health there? And that's my issue, because in the city of Houston, no matter what sports you're talking about, there's going to be some type of devastating injury that's going to fuck up the plan. So I think it's just going to be interesting to see what happens. Like, I'm looking forward to it. I'm still not happy about number 10 not being out there, but with Deshaun, everything is going to be all right. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, I look at I think Deshaun. I think like, if anybody has a reason to be somewhat hopeful, it's just Deshaun for me. Like, I guess that's maybe why I don't put so much concern into the team, because, we're talking about a guy who pretty much just finished year 2, even though he's been in the league year 3, missed the first season. He's gotten better every year in all the different areas of the game. He's getting better at reading defenses and picking up blitzes. So it's like, I feel like with Deshaun, and we've seen it multiple times in the NFL, great top 5 quarterbacks can winning you a Super Bowl with an awful head coach. Aaron Rodgers did it with Mike McCarthy and that just awful offense. So we've seen it. And I think Deshaun's that good to where that could be overcome. But you're right. Like, health plays such a big part of it. And shout out to Wink, because Wink's right about the Clowney trade. That's another one that I think you could potentially have a conversation about, maybe a bad move. I think now we're starting to see that maybe it could have been the right decision. I don't know. Like, Seattle didn't even get a comp pick from Clowney because he hasn't been signed yet. So for everybody that thought we could have kept him and gotten a comp pick, we wouldn't have gotten that comp pick. We added Gary and Conley, and then we're able to draft Jonathan Grenard. So I don't know. I think that's what are your thoughts on the Clowney trade now? Like, at first, I think it was awful. How about now, though?
Yeah, looking at it now, like I said, it's interesting that obviously that where he wants to get paid and where teams are seeing him is maybe two different places. But then I'm wondering how much of an impact does the current situation, the pandemic, where you can't really meet with other teams. I'm wondering how much of an impact does that have? To show guys, hey, I'm healthy, I'm good. There's always concern about the knee and stuff like that. So I think he's going to end up somewhere, but I think it's probably going to be less than whatever it is he's asking for. And what somebody said, I think 15 or something like that. I don't think, because the sack numbers are valued. Connor's never really been that guy, so I don't think he's going to see the numbers that he's hoping for.
I've always been a huge Clowney guy. That was the part where I started to turn more on Bill O'Brien, because I think Clowney is I still believe, just putting on the film, if you just stop looking at the damn stat box and you just watch Clowney play, he's a freaking game wrecker, and he's somebody you have to account for no matter what on offense. And I miss that element. I have an argument that I think if Clowney was still on this team in the Kansas City divisional round, I think you win that game.
And I probably agree with you on that. And I think that's part of it. Like I said, with Clowney's legacy, and we go back and we say, if you really go back and look at it, the play that Clowney was known for, it was a run. Everybody wants Clowney to be, this pass rusher you're talking about. Yes, he has the tools to do it. And this kind of goes into my beef with the Texans a lot is I have concerns about how they develop young players. And so, we can talk about, Strong and Miller and their arguments, that's kind of, there's two different sides to that. Some people are saying, oh, well, they really weren't that good. Other people saying, well, they didn't have a shot. But, the talent was there. I think Braxton may be a different thing because, again, like he was changing positions, and so there was some other stuff going on there. But to me, Jalen was a tall guy, had the speed, teammate had decent hands. But it just seems like once you get in that doghouse, you mentioned the doghouse earlier about Kiki. It's like once you get in that doghouse with Bill O'Brien, there's no coming out of it. And that's something that concerns me. It's like, do guys not get to make mistakes? What is it that's going on that gets them in the doghouse? Because obviously, like I said, we've never seen any legal issues or anything like that from the Texans, or at least in the media. Like I'm trying to figure out, like, what is it that gets people in Bill O'Brien's doghouse? And after that, it's like they don't get another shot, even though we know that they're talented. And so I think, like I say, going back to the Clowney thing, though. But yeah, that was definitely a big issue. And again, I think I was probably on that train because I used to definitely try to milk the Clowney thing, the looking like Clowney thing as much as I could. But yeah, this was one of the many issues that I have with Bill O'Brien.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the defense. Defense is probably the biggest question mark outside of health on the offense for this team. Last year we saw that this defense has zero pass rush, and then when J.J. Watt goes out, it's even worse. Who knows what J.J. Watt will get this year? He's been hurt 3 of the last four seasons, I believe. And once he goes out, the pass rush is non-existent. Hopefully Charles Omenihu can take that next step. You look at the additions of Blacklock, Grenard, Jacob Martin maybe coming on and adding 10 to 15 more pounds to become a 3-down outside linebacker. The biggest thing I'd like to see this season from the defense is that Brendan Scarlett isn't starting opposite of Whitney Merciless. I want to see somebody that offers some sort of pass rush or something different, because not that Brendan Scarlett's a liability, but God, he can never get after the quarterback. And like, I don't know, he's a great special teams player, but then I feel really good about the secondary. That's the biggest thing I feel really good about. But if there's no pass rush, how good can your secondary be? What are your thoughts on the defense, Honcho?
I got a lot of concerns across the board with the defense. Again, I'm not as familiar with some of the young guys. I honestly haven't been paying attention to the college game as much. So with Blacklock, I've heard a lot of good things about him. The Grenard pick, I know we were live. Spitz had mentioned him. So I'm not really necessarily too familiar with those guys. The secondary, though, the secondary though is I don't know. I have questions now. I know a lot of guys that were acquired, mid-season through trades things. So you can say maybe they need a little bit of time to build that continuity. If Roby stays a little bit healthier, maybe we see something different. I got concerns. One bright spot, I do like Lonnie, even though he did have some issues last year, but I think that he has the tool set to become a good player, and I like the fact that he's kind of a dog, and we're missing a lot of that on this team, and that's part of my problem. Like I think that I get to have the good moral guys, but I think on your defense you got to have some guys who to do the dirty work. I don't think we really have those kind of guys. I don't think we have those guys that come out and set the tone, that get the guys fired up. And so that's kind of part of the problem. I think the attitude of the defense is an issue. Let me see. As far as the linebackers, I think we're all right. I like Zach. I think Zach's gonna have a breakout year this year. Scarlett, I don't have too big of an issue with Scarlett. It's like he kind of makes plays in spurts here and there, but I'd like to see a little bit more consistency maybe with him. But like I say, as far as like the younger guys, I definitely have to do a little bit more research on because I'm not that familiar with him. JJ, he's getting a little long in the tooth. I don't know what you expect from him, like you mentioned earlier. And I want to believe, like again, he showed you a couple of years ago, he can get you a double-digit guy. But again, now when you're seeing those repeated injuries, like what JJ are you getting? Like everybody still loves JJ, but I don't want JJ to go out, and in a couple of years looking like Earl Campbell out there, can't walk, can't stand up straight. So it's like, how much more are you going to get from JJ over the next season or so? But I have a lot of concerns about this defense, and then I'm kind of concerned with the position that Weaver's being put in, being a first-time DC. But so I think it's going to be kind of interesting to see how they play that out.
Yeah, I think with Weaver, it's more of a question: are we going to see kind of like what we saw with Vrabel when he took over? Is it really just Rack's defense with Vrabel's name on it? There was also a ton of injuries on defense that year that Vrabel took over, so maybe that played a part. I think that was the year that we set the record for most injured players. I think we ended up having it was god awful amount. I think it was like 33 injured players or something crazy. But yeah, I think with the defense, Lonnie, I talked to Lonnie 2 weeks ago. He's working on the areas that he needs to work on. It's his fluidity in his hips, his footwork. I'm excited to see what he can do. I love Gary Conley and Bradley Roby. I think those two are really the star corners for me. You have to wonder, with the safety position with Gibson being cut, Justin Reed did an interview yesterday saying that he's more of the coverage guy. So maybe it does open up the door for Eric Reed to come in and play that box safety position and let Justin Reed kind of roam around as the single high safety. But yeah, the pass rush, Charles Omenihu, I don't think people realize how good of a year he actually had last year. He's very effective. Those long arms are very impactful, strip sacks and things of that nature. But yeah, Anthony Weaver's really the question mark in my opinion. I want to know what we're going to see. He comes from the Rex Ryan tree. Are we going to see more aggressive blitzes with different, scheme? That'd be great. I'd love to stop seeing our defensive tackles drop back into coverage. So, so if we can eliminate that aspect of the defense, I'd probably feel 10 times better. But yeah, I think overall the defense as a whole, it's all going to come down to the pass rush. I don't think there's anything else that you really have to question. I think it's just that. I think there's players everywhere else. Zach Cunningham, I think Zach is a superstar in the making. I think he's a hell of a linebacker. I wouldn't be surprised if B-Mac's gone after next year and we sign Zach Cunningham to a long-term deal because we can't afford to pay both. Yeah. But yeah, all right. So thoughts on the season coming up? Are we going to have a season first and foremost? You think we're going to have a season?
I think some way, somehow it still happens. The NFL is key. And I don't think they're going to want to stop, from rolling. I don't know how they're going to figure it out. I don't know if everything is going to be, if they're going to try to play in empty stadiums or they're going to, how they're going to arrange it. I just feel like the NFL some way, somehow is going to keep things rolling because even with, everybody else kind of saying, oh, we're postponing, canceling. I know, the season isn't in, but it just has this feel like the NFL mentality is, no matter what, we're going to figure out a way to keep, everything happening. I would hope so. I hope there is because I think the people need it. I think just with everything that's been going on, again, a good distraction would be nice. I just don't know how it's going to work, but I think it's going to be a season.
Do you think that we reach the levels that you have in your mind potentially?
I don't think it's going to be a disappointing season. I think it's just going to be another one of those almost, like you said on Hard Knocks, the almost team, just almost there. You almost get there, but I think it's kind of similar to last year, the year prior. I think we make the playoffs, but then fall short.
Fall short of a Super Bowl or fall short of reaching expectations?
To me, expectations are a Super Bowl at this point. And again, and I'm talking shit, I'll still accept. Just take us somewhere we haven't been. Just take us to the AFC Championship. And I could still say, hey, if it's a close game, you don't get embarrassed, then you can commend that. But I think we fall short. I think we're another one and done in the playoffs this year.
Okay, last one for you. For you to feel outside of Super Bowl and obviously like that, like if this team goes out and puts a whooping on the teams we're supposed to and beats the teams that we're not supposed to and just looks like a different team. I'm not saying it's possible. I'm not saying it's going to happen. But if they go out there and they have like a 12-4 season, get a bye in the first round, will your confidence level on the team feel better? I guess what will it take for you to see what this for you to feel better about this team?
I'd have to see consistency.
Okay.
Because I think that's the biggest issue that we've had. You'd see a game where the Texans look really good, then you see a game where against somebody they should probably, blow out where they look terrible, where they look like they don't belong on the same field. That's my thing. Again, if they're able to put up numbers and they can do it consistently, 3 or 4 games, and I'd start saying, okay, hey, maybe we have something going on here. Or at least, like I say, hang just when you play the front runners of the league, don't get embarrassed. That's my big issue. I'm tired of being embarrassed. Like if you look at any commercial, in the NFL commercial or NFL related where they actually play highlights, there's almost in every single one a highlight of somebody embarrassing the Texans, and that being on that side is frustrating. Even though we've had lots of talent here, the national media doesn't ever recognize it until it leaves, and that's across all sports here in Houston. But, it's always being on the wrong side of the story. And so my thing is now I'm tired of being the joke of the league. I think, Bill O'Brien, to kind of reclaim his name, he has to go out and embarrass some people. He has to show up against the better coaches in the league. It seems like when he faces better coaches, he kind of gets out coached. And I'd like to see him, I think he was a little bit better maybe with the clock management issues, but I just want to be in competition. I don't think there should be any game where the Texans walk on the field, if you have Deshaun Watson, where you should get embarrassed, like you should be getting blown out by 20, 30 points or anything like that. I'd like to see that come to a stop.
Yeah. Do you think that with Tim Kelly calling the offense and Bill O'Brien just kind of managing things, do you think that potentially could help with some of the game management situations and time management things? Because my biggest issue with Bill O'Brien has always been that I feel like he takes way too much on and doesn't delegate any of the responsibility to anybody. Like head coach, offensive coordinator, general manager last year, this year, now he's giving up OC duties, supposedly. And we, so if he can do that, I think that might maybe help. But, I don't know.
And it's just like you're talking about, as far as delegate, we were just talking about leadership a little bit earlier. And that's kind of the sign of a good leader, having faith in, the people under you to do the job that, you're requesting of them to do. And it seems like that was part of the thing. It's like he didn't trust the guys that were hired for the job. You had, Tim Kelly, OC in name only, last year. And now allegedly he's getting the play callers again, like you said, supposedly. I still kind of want to see how that plays out. But I'm hoping he brings something different to the table. But he's been with Bill O'Brien since Penn State, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm wondering how much of an influence is Bill O'Brien on his play calling? Is he kind of a younger up and comer? Does he have his own mind? And, I'm still kind of curious to see what we're really going to see from Tim Kelly. Is he really going to be able to run his own show in that aspect?
I think Jalen Strong the other day said that Tim Kelly is super smart, or I don't know. Somebody was asking something about on Twitter, and he quote tweeted it and said that Tim Kelly is super smart. I don't know how much that's gonna really matter. All right, tough question. This is maybe something we say for the Den, but is there a way or a world where the people that are considered Bill O'Brien apologists and the people who just can't stand Bill O'Brien can live? Is there a way for us to exist together?
I think he has to win the Super Bowl. I think everybody's happy when you win. I think that's the only way it happens. I mean, I think that it would take Bill, like, again, he'd have to be out of character. And I mean, just do some things again. And last year was a little bit out of character for him. But again, like I say, I think he has to be much more aggressive. He has to show that or put the Texans in the national conversation. Not, on the brink of the conversation, people start kind of talking about him, and then you go out and get embarrassed. Oh, well, they are what we thought they were. And I mean, if he can get out there and hang with the big dogs, I think that Bill, the narrative around Bill will change. And I think people who don't like Bill are willing to still give him a chance. It's just that he has to show that, there's more to him. And I think that's kind of where a lot of us are. Yeah.
Okay. Fair. Honcho, thank you for the conversation. I'm sorry that this took so long to have you on. But you can come to me whenever you want to hop on. You're bored on a Tuesday, let me know. I can. But I really appreciate you coming on. I'm glad that I can call you my friend, somebody that we interact with a lot on Twitter and things of that nature. Support-wise, that's one of the biggest things that I think you and I have always kind of thrived for, is always supporting each other in independent media and people that are trying to make a name for themselves and what they're trying to do. So I appreciate you for doing that and supporting me, and I'll always continue to support you.
I mean, I thank you for having me, and I've definitely enjoyed it. Yeah, absolutely, man. And I'm a big proponent of that. Like I say, the independent media, we have a different way of having to work around things. We may not have that big backing, so I'm definitely in agreement that we should all, support one another. We're all rooting for the same thing, and again, I think that it's when the people, they win when they have options. When you have more options to choose from, and more people giving you genuine content, I think it's the fans that win in the end, man. But I definitely thank you for having me. I definitely look forward to doing it again soon sometime.
Yeah, absolutely, Honcho. And why don't you let them know one more time where they can find you and things of that nature?
Okay, yeah, Soft Sports. You can go to softsports.com. It'll take you directly to the YouTube channel, Soft Sports HTX on Instagram and Twitter, and on Facebook, it's just Soft Sports. If you want to join the Facebook group. And like I said, we're trying to get everything back on track. Go live, usually try to go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, around 6 p.m. Central. On the main channel, and then there's Soft Sports TV, where we cover everything besides the Texans, and we go Tuesdays and Thursdays on that channel. But every we try to do 6 p.m. every night.
Fantastic. And tell Tin Man to not hold anything against me. I know he's mad at me right now, but tell him that it's all love still. It will forever be love. We may not see eye to eye, but Tin Man is still my guy. I kind of went off on him the other day, and I'm sorry. I got my emotional bag, but tell him I got him.
All right. Yeah, shout out, if you don't mind. Shout out to the round table, man. Shout out to, Wink Wise, Tinny. Shout out to Ray. Shout out to Hector, man. So definitely holding it down. Shout out to goddamn Darren. And I know I'm forgetting somebody. And y'all can get on my ass later on for that. I always forget somebody. Spitz. And, if anybody else I may have missed, man, I apologize. But shout out to everybody. Shout out to everybody who, like I say, doing independent Houston sports media, Texas media, man. Shout out to you. Definitely appreciate what you got going on there, man. And I've been seeing you putting in a lot of work, man. I just, keep doing your thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it, Honcho. We'll definitely be in talks.
All right, man. Appreciate it.